Uh-huh.
That's right.
Like biscuits.
Straight out of the oven.
Gobble damn cookies up, yo.
Word.
Gotta have them bickies.
Cookie Monster rates us. Alrighty, folks. Welcome back to Life Biscuits.
Yeah, here we are with snack-sized wisdom, life-sized impact. You are with Glenn.
And Chris. And today we are bringing you biscuit number 9, consistency.
Yeah, we're almost at the double figures.
Oh, double figures.
And we're bringing it home strong. So if you're thinking, wait, can these get any better? Well, folks.
Well, the big 3 coming up soon.
Yeah, not too far away from the big 3. Oof, which is 11, 12, and 13. So strap yourselves in for those ones. But today, consistency, which leads on extremely nicely from
Discipline
last week, which we were really talking about, like, have some guts, people.
Yeah, get gritty.
Exactly, like overcome that sort of comfort of sitting on the couch and get up and do what needs to be done. And today, to build on that, we're really talking about, doing little things that are perhaps out of our comfort zone every day.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a little definition, Life Biscuit definition for consistency. And our definition is the ability to persist at a good thing more often than not.
Yep. So, we'll talk a little bit about the more often than not a little later in the acronym, which we'll have for you. But definitely, we've narrowed it down to a good thing. Obviously, you can be consistent at bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll probably,
good.
Exactly. We'll pull some flips on you today to prove that point. But yeah, we obviously optimistic, looking for the good, trying to be our best, trying to fulfill our potential, the Life Biscuits way. And as such, we're focusing on the good things. So persist at those good things more often than not. And good things are going to come our way.
Yeah, we'll be starting to head in the right direction.
Yeah.
Every step, every single day. So, as usual, we have an acronym to help you guys remember the key parts of consistency a little bit better. And today's acronym is RICH. And it really comes from the basis of compounding interest, right, and consistency. So when you've got a bank account, all right, not a plug for Dolomites here, but if you ever had a Dolomite account, all right, and you're putting in money every week, filling out your little checkbook thing, all right, that eventually builds up, and that's what consistency and compounding and where the RICH acronym comes. Because if we are consistent with the things that we're trying to develop, our habits, all right, our life, our potential is going to be full of riches.
Yeah, and I think the Dolomites thing wasn't exactly going to make you rich. With its
but habits of saving and whatnot.
Yeah, good stuff. I do remember those cool little checkbook type things they used to have back in primary school. Memories. But like, the financial analogy is great for, and we'll refer to things like interest and dividends and that sort of thing just to make some points tonight. But there's many areas in life to be rich. So being consistent will make your life rich in all sorts of areas. If we're consistent in, really prioritizing our relationships and putting others first, then we're going to be, rich in our relationships, and they're going to, pay us back, and they're going to, really reward other people as well.
Same goes for our condition, right?
Exactly. We'll
consistent with our
and
diet.
mentally rich.
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah. So bear with us with that analogy. You need to sort of play in to it there and not just pigeonhole it to finances, because there's a whole lot more in life, as we know. I guess the thing with consistency is, like, I often think, Lowy, is there something that I started at some point in my past and maybe persisted at for a little bit, and then I stopped, and it's been some months or years even, and you just think, if I had have kept going, imagine where I would be now.
100%. I can think of many examples off the top of my head right now.
And, the antidote to that is consistency. And we weren't consistent, and we're paying the price for it now. And we have to accept that. But we've then also got to overcome, we can't say, well, that opportunity's passed. If I'm 37 now and I'm regretting something that I stopped at 22, then cool.
Yeah.
But if it actually pains me that I stopped, well, today's the best day to get back on that bandwagon, because I could still go for another 30 years, and by the time I'm 67, and people will be like, damn, that guy.
That's right.
On his guitar.
What is it? Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, stay tuned, folks. Glimbo's solo coming for you. Yeah, it's that quote. 20 years ago, best time to plant a tree. The next best time is to plant it today. Yeah,
yep. So into it, what do you reckon? Get into the R?
Straight into it. Let's do it.
The R for rich. Now, the R is, we're looking at returns. All right. So obviously our behaviors, whatever we choose to do, we want and we will get returns on the behaviors that we engage in consistently.
Correct.
And we're trying to say, hey, guys, be very explicit about what you are consistent in, because that's what's going to give you the returns.
Yeah. And in terms of returns, there's immediate returns, which are like short-term immediate returns. And those are the things that we, incrementally are working against. Like if I think about, our snack size fitness, right? If I'm doing a push-up or 2 push-ups every single day, right? Or your chin-up challenge from when we talked about last week in discipline, we're going to build. We're going to get consistent, small, immediate, short-term gains, right? Building confidence, right? And confidence helps you with completion.
Yeah,
right?
The discipline to go and do it.
Right,
so those are with the consistency again.
Yeah, those are the little things that give immediate returns, all right, for being consistent. But there's also those long-term rewards or the returns. And we talked about dividends earlier. So if you think about the types of returns that you get from an investment, all right, you can get the short-term stuff. Those like every month, if you've got your savings account, dollars of interest here and there. All right, those are your short terms. The long term stuff, all right, those are the big saving goals down the future. Maybe you're saving for a car, whatever it is. All right, but you also have dividends. All right, so if someone is invested in you or you're invested in someone, all right, they're connected to the consistent habits that you continue to do, and they'll pay out. Those dividends will pay out for those people.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Right. It'll make them rich too.
So those returns are everywhere. Those short-term returns.
That
and those,
ripple effect.
And those long-term returns, those dividends,
definitely.
pay them back.
I think way too many of us, we talk, particularly with the short-term returns, sometimes like you've got to go looking for them.
Yeah.
And you've got to spend that time, which we kind of promote, that spend your time with your journal and your meditation or whatever. Because if we're so caught up in the busyness of life, and I want to go for a run, and I run for 3 days, and I got that delayed onset muscle soreness, and it still feels terrible, and I'm not seeing any improvement. I could get on the scales, and maybe I've gone up a couple of kilos if I'm looking to lose weight, or hopefully not a couple of kilos in a few days. But the scales may not have budged, so to speak, and I can then just go, I'll stuff it. And in your mind, you're like, I've been doing this for weeks, and it's only been 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days.
And we say it's not worth it. So sometimes we've got to sit back and go, wait, what would I tell someone else if they said, I'm going to quit because I'm still not seeing any results? 2 things. 1, let's be smart enough to know that the progress can take time. And 2, let's ask ourselves, is it a good thing that I'm running? Or is it a good thing that I'm eating better? Or is it a good thing that, I might be reading a book, but I don't feel like I'm necessarily after a week, it's not paying fruit in my life if I'm trying to better myself through reading and cultivating like we were talking about. Like, is it a good thing to do these things? Yes. What would I tell someone else who's doing these things? Like, keep going. Yeah, so why don't we listen to ourselves? Yeah. Like, if that's the advice we'd give someone else that we care about, so often we just disregard what we have to say.
Exactly. I mean, those plateaus will happen, all right? We talked about knowing the seasons. Yeah, sure. It might not happen immediately, but consistency is about a long-term investment in ourselves and being consistent. And we know what Life Biscuits is about, right? It's about longevity, all right? So it's a long-term investment, and we're looking for, we'll get those short-term returns, but the long-term returns is the holistic approach of what we're after in these returns.
Yeah, we're looking for small, easy changes. And that's why we talk snack size stuff, because we just want it to be completely applicable in your life. And then that concept of compounding, right? So if I'm reading, then not only am I probably going to get better at reading, experience a bit more flow in my reading, but I'm taking all that stuff in. If I'm journaling on it, yeah, cool. I'm slowly getting better, maybe 0.1% better each day. But then things from my previous reading I can put that microscope over what I'm now reading, and my reflections from a week ago might come and be like, oh, that was something similar I was looking at here. Here's a different perspective. So this snowballing effect starts to really, the snowball's getting bigger and bigger, and we're building some of that momentum, and we're just slowly getting better and better. And it really starts to compound and accelerate. Yeah. James Clear, who we'll mention probably a couple of times in this episode, talks about, like, if we get 1% better after a year, we'll actually be 37 times better if we're 1% better every day.
Than if we
whereas if we plateau, we're getting no better, and if we're 1% worse, then we're really in struggle street. So we need to just not want to change the world overnight. We need to understand that little things completed day after day are what are going to turn our life around.
Yeah, if we can be more concerned about our trajectory as opposed to the results, we're going to be on our way.
For sure. On that concept of waiting, and we can reach a tipping point. There's an amazing book called The Tipping Point, which we can get into, but bamboo, I find, is a great example, and a few different authors have mentioned this bamboo analogy, and it's worth passing on.
Do tell, Glenberg. Yeah. Do tell.
Well, bamboo, and again, I'm going to use my long-term memory here, which I've mentioned before isn't great. But I think for its first few years, maybe even 5 or 6 years, you don't, like, if you plant
shoots in the ground, bamboo,
like, you don't see anything above the ground. There's nothing. And you're like, man, I'm a terrible gardener. My bamboo's not growing for years. But the roots are going down. What you don't see is slowly going down. And then at year whatever, all of a sudden, it'll grow meters and meters and meters in a year.
Fastest growing grass.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about that in your life, cool. If I'm reading and trying to get better and more knowledgeable and trying to develop mastery in a certain area, musical instrument, just my intellect, physical fitness, whatever, oftentimes we just won't see much difference on the surface. Yeah. But there are changes happening, in our brain and in our body. And then all of a sudden we're going to reach a point where things start to really take off for us. Things start to make sense for us. Opportunities start to come to us just from that consistent chipping away at whatever it is we're focused on.
And I think this day and age, everybody wants that life hack, the quick fix, all right, instant gratification, all right. They want to lose, like TV Direct, AdMaster Pro,
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
And everybody is chasing that quick fix, and the only quick fix I know is discipline and consistency and hard work.
Yeah.
And maybe it might not be quick. So, but it happens and it works.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in a kind of one of those yoga Pilates machines with the little built-in trampoline, I'm selling one. It told me that that my wife and I, were going to get trim and taut.
30 days money back guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. It's been more than 30 days, so I can't get my money back. Slight bit of dust on it, but that's easy to wipe off. If you're interested, get in touch.
Life Biscuits.
1300 Life Biscuits, which is not a real phone number, so please don't call it. But it is a true story other than that. But no, I think, we definitely get caught up in this, make it better now, give me the returns now, how can I lose weight now, how can I look better now, rather than just knowing that little changes.
You've got to come to that realization. It's about patience, but a bit of faith in what we're doing. faith in your compass.
Yeah, for sure. If there's something that you are not good at, consistency is going to make you better. And we've just got to remember that and go after that. And know that the returns will come, Mr. Lau. Mastery takes time.
Yeah. Happy to move on?
Yeah.
Returns.
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 You
Rich.
mentioned before about interest and trajectory. Yes.
What a great segue. Exactly. Because the I in our RICH acronym, returns are, I is for interest, invest with interest. And we can't consistently get better at something if we're not interested in getting better. Right? You can't get better if you're not interested in getting better. Right? And that comes with that courage, that cultivation, those biscuits at the start, but also with consistency. Right? If we don't work at it and we're not interested, then we won't get better. We've mentioned it, nerding out. All right.
Yep.
We've got to nerd out so that we can get those small gains. All right. There's the British cycling team, the aggregate of small gains.
Yeah,
they were struggling. All right. I think James Clears talks about it.
He does, right at the start of the book.
Yeah, in the book. And they were struggling. They didn't win a gold medal or whatever in World Championships.
They brought
got
him on.
a new coach.
David Brailsford.
Yeah. And he's like, we've got to work on all the little 1%ers. And they were testing all these different materials, testing these aerodynamic designs,
seat position, massage gels.
So much experimental stuff. Really changed the whole cycling team and the dynamic from then on. And eventually, they didn't win any medals in the first set Olympics, was that right? And then the next set,
6 years later or 5 years later or something, they just absolutely dominated world cycling for quite a while.
And I can guarantee you, if they weren't interested in those things that we think,
it's not going to make a difference.
It's not going to make a difference. All right, then they wouldn't. The consistency of those, those interests wouldn't have been able to accumulate or aggregate themselves into something that's tangible. And
like if they just did one of those things. Okay, let's change our seat position. Cool. Negligible, not noticeable, let's give up, let's not try. But just as you mentioned, the aggregation, accumulation of just dozens and dozens of tiny little things. And we're not saying that we need to go to that extent. Like that is the elite of the elite.
Yeah. They're getting interested at everything. But we should at least be getting interested or more interested in those aspects of what we're trying to develop habits in. Hey?
For sure. Some people spend their entire lives waiting for the time to be right to make improvements, whereas we've just got to go, now's the time, baby, now is the time. And there's no time like the now. We talked about the time delusion last week, and so many of us are just like, I'll do it later, and at some point in the future. And the thing that, again, is common sense but often gets overlooked is that whatever we need to do it now. And you're like, well, I can do it tomorrow. Well, you could, but tomorrow's never coming, because when tomorrow comes, Lowy, it's going to be today. When the future comes, it's going to be now. Anything that's ever happened in the history of the world has happened now. It's happened in the now at that time. We can't wait. Last week we talked about, let's not wait for motivation to come, because it's most likely not going to come, or it's not going to come consistently, that's for sure. So we can't say, I'll do it later, I'll do it in the future, because the future is a figment of our imagination.
Yeah. So true. I mean, if you're one of my year 11 biology students listening right now, do your drafts now, please.
Last week I talked about some assessment being due at 11:57.
Yes. And if you're one of those people who are listening now, 1 week later,
you will know that you should have perhaps put some work in the now.
Being interested, man. I mean, I know both of us don't really put money on a high pedestal or high value for us right now. I mean, we both have great jobs, but it's not a priority for us. But if I think about being interested, like in the tiny details of my finances, I could be retiring a couple of, like, even if it's just like, we're not talking British cycling team kind of interest in all the one percenters, but like I could be retiring a couple of years earlier.
Absolutely. I've got a friend who, he's got a solid job, but it's not outstanding, and he's paid his house off in Brisbane a good couple of years ago.
Brisbane? Oof.
In Brisbane, a couple of years ago, yeah, and just bought a new one outright.
Oh, outright?
Yeah, and I'm like,
oh damn.
I'm like, and like he was interested.
Oh, I bet he would have been.
And interested in the trajectory of, so often we can say, oh, what's adding $50 onto my mortgage? There's an additional payment, not going to make a difference. But if I do that consistently over time, I can cut the length of my loan down by years and years and years just from that little, addition. And then on the flip side of that, how many of us, and you see this so often, of people who will go, cool, I'm just going to spend $5 on a coffee today or every day. And some people go to a cafe and buy multiple in a day. And that's like over 20 years. We're talking $50,000 worth of coffee.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to ask those people, would you like $50,000 or would you like,
a coffee every
single day for 20 years?
I think, I hope you're not saying the coffee because you can always make it at home.
Exactly.
Which might cost you 10, so you've still got 40 in the pocket. And I mean, I often prefer the coffee that I make at home, to be honest. No offense to I've got a few good cafes, but for the most part, coffee at home, baby.
Yeah, so I mean, I should be getting interested. Hey, I should be getting interested in how much of my percentage I'm spending in groceries and in food and fast food. That curry.
I know. Look. Tomorrow's cheat dinner night, people. What am I gonna do? No, but the trajectory thing is so important because we've got to see that future. We've got to become interested in our future selves, even though it's a figment of our imagination, the concept of the future. But we also need to have a clear vision of what I'm going to look like, and my whole self, not just my physical body, in 20 years if I keep going on this trajectory that I'm on.
Because you don't want to be, 50, 60 years old and then being told, hey, you better start getting interested in your health.
Yeah.
All right? Because you're about to have a heart attack, or, better get interested in your cardiovascular disease in your heart, better exercise. So those interests are so important. Another thing I want to say, getting interested or investing with interests can also take you places. I've talked in the past about how mad I am about American football, and that really started from Jamie Krasansky, one of the co-workers, inviting me to a fantasy football league. Shout out, Jamie. Thanks, mate. It really just snowballed from there. Got interested, had a bet going on. Loser had to buy the winner a 6-pack. Have not won since. Jamie's beaten me a couple of times. But from there, I started falling in love with NFL and then started to go play for a club, Toowoomba Valley's Vultures. And then from there, managed to meet some really great coaches. Queensland coach Steve Box, just one of the best communicators and coaches that I've had as a player. He really brought some of the elite NFL kind of coaching style to me, and because I was interested, and I invested in interest with this fantasy football. It's taken me places. It's allowed me to be a practice player on the Queensland Sun Devils. Met Jesse Monster Williams. Yeah, I mean, just if you think about, all right, well, if I didn't invest with interest,
got you onto the news a couple of times.
Yeah.
Local news.
Yeah, Win News. I mean, if I wasn't invested with interest, like Jamie just said, we need numbers for this fantasy football league, and I was like, all right. And I didn't set my lineup. I didn't watch any of the games. Didn't think about making trades or anything like that. Then I would have never had this opportunity to really grow my coaching, knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, if I flip it to the volleyball court, Lowy, and say, how many kids are interested in getting better?
So true.
They're interested in getting better at a superficial level because they want to be better now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's rare where you find those kids who are just like, and there's a few that we've got.
They'll ask questions. They'll be like,
how do
what
I
am
get
I?
better?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's others that are like, yeah, I want to hit better. You know, I want to play better.
Yeah,
But they're not just like, they're not nerding out.
No. And they've got to start falling in love with the fundamentals of consistent practice and just wanting more, you know, each touch and not being satisfied with the last touch.
Yeah, damn right.
And keep wanting more and keep going after it and knowing that at some point in the future, this is going to pay off. And you can see them because they're in the gym at lunchtime. They're not just waiting for class. They're in the gym at lunchtime and they're hitting balls and they're passing balls and they're like, yeah, cool.
The players that, you know, train to get it, they're not the players to train to get it right. They're the players to train until they can't get it wrong.
Ooh.
Yeah. Whatever, paraphrasing that quote.
Yeah. I haven't heard it. Yeah. All right. What do we got here? So, yeah, how long if we talk about trajectory, you know, I often have in my head this, and we were talking about compounding before, but, you know, I have a straight line and then a line that's going off at a tangent.
Yeah.
And what I know about that trajectory is it's taking me in a good place. It's taking me to the positive direction.
Yeah.
And I like to think of it as not only changing my destination, but I'm getting higher and better and further away from where I could have been. And I think with that, you know, in 10 days' time, I'm not far from that line, that straight line that I was on.
Yeah.
So I can't really see much difference and whatnot. But as I climb higher and higher and my trajectory gets further away, and I continue to be interested in my progress and perhaps my lack of progress or whatever, I start to get new perspectives on things. I start to see new things. Like if I'm climbing a mountain, if my trajectory is up the mountain as opposed to staying on the bottom, as I climb higher through one step at a time, right? One step at a time, I see a whole new world. I start to see things that I could never have seen down the bottom. And I start to see, there's different paths down and around this mountain. And wait, there's another mountain over there behind this mountain that I can go and climb next. And that would never happen if I don't make the choice to be interested in getting better.
Yeah.
If I'm satisfied with where I am now, or if I'm whinging about where I am now, and I'm not interested in changing that trajectory, then I'm never going to get those new perspectives, and I'm never going to go different places. I'm going to remain poor in pretty much all areas of my life. I'm never going to be rich.
Exactly. And a thing about perspective is that if we invest with interest with other people, all right, those other people can provide us with that perspective. All right. We talked about the hot poker principle.
Environment,
Environment. Yeah, 100%. Interest, all right? Getting people who are interested around you, all right, with the same goals that you have, they're going to take you there, all right? They're going to help you get that consistent step in the right direction and then continue getting there.
Yeah. And we're in a feedback-rich environment. We talk about all the time. And we've got to be craving that feedback in all of our interactions and in all of our actions. Like, another element of interest here, and I'm linking it to it, is measure stuff. Like, how can I measure stuff? Am I just guessing that I'm getting better, or is what sort of data can I gather on my improvements and whatnot? And that's nerding out, right? And it's cool to be a nerd, man.
Sure is, man.
Yeah, definitely. So we need to be interested in feedback and the people we're surrounding ourselves with. We will become, as we've spoken about before, the cumulative average of the people we hang around the most. And if there's people that are bringing you down and not on, or on an opposite trajectory perhaps, then we've got to start making some changes.
Yep.
And we'll start to, like, example at work, right? Coffee. We started last year, like, as you know, we love coffee, but with a couple of people in the staff room, like, no, I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
Right? No coffee. I'm all, I don't like coffee. But people in the staff room occasionally go on coffee trips and bring coffees back for some people, and there's little coffee gangs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now we're like, I might go
I'm
in
interested
on that coffee.
now.
Yeah, I might go in on that one. And then there's this little, like, almost everyone's into the coffees now, which is in conflict with what we're talking about
in terms of finances.
Yeah. But I've got
Just
a little
goes to show
system
that,
for
yeah.
that. I've got a system for that, and it's nothing to do with stealing, and I'll share it with you. Off air, Lowy. But what else can, I don't know if we've said it before on the podcast, but we need to make the revolution irresistible. And in this case, for those people, and God bless you if you're listening to this, but the coffee revolution for them was irresistible. They're like, I got to get on this coffee bandwagon, right? But what else can we take from that? Like, how else can we make what we're doing so attractive,
irresistible,
for want of a better word, to other people that they're like, man, I've got to get around Glenbow because I'm going to go places if that's the case. How can we, what are we doing in our life daily that's taken us somewhere?
Yep.
All right. So if you think, I want to be super successful, or I want to be this or that and the other, okay, cool. What did you do today to move in that direction? And if the answer is nothing, then we've got to seriously look at what we're doing daily. Start to be aware of, wait, I'm actually not doing anything today, or I haven't done anything today or this week or whatever that's moving me in the direction or the trajectory of where I want to be one day, or who I want to be one day. Then
you better start looking at your compass, start looking and getting some discipline, start doing something to get you there.
For sure.
And do it consistently.
Definitely.
All right.
Cool. So that's the I in be
Rich.
Interested.
Yeah.
Nerd out on stuff and know your trajectory, change your trajectory. As you know, aeroplane.
Yeah.
Change that
degree
heading
off.
by 1 degree, baby. If you go overseas on a 1 degree off heading, then you're not going to your destination.
Exactly.
You're changing your destination. And in life, we want to not end up where we are headed. We want to end up where we could be.
Yeah.
And where we want to
Where
be.
our potential is.
That's it.
So returns are returns. I invest with interest, and the C in our rich acronym is choices. Right. And this
That's
links.
what it all comes down to.
Oh, it really does. It really does.
Moment to moment.
Last week we talked about will it make the boat go faster? All right.
Yeah.
And if we can distill all of these decisions, right, to that one question for us, right, the choice, the realization, hey, this is what I want to achieve, then I need to do this consistently, all right, then we're going to be on our way. We've got to also choose, aligned with our compass, what kind of person we want to be, all right, and what if that person, all right, is, peak 100% potential Glenbow or Lowy, all right, what is that person doing? Okay, we all see those people like, oh man, how do they do it? All right, how are they just this good? All right, I can guarantee you they've got habits that make them who they are. All right, and they're doing those habits every single day consistently. All right, so that's why they're so, like, they're as big as Lockie Smith, or as organised as Ainsley Joss. Right?
They're aware, right?
Yeah.
They're aware of who they need to be to get what they want to get. And I think, everything we are today is a result
of our choices.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore, we're like, oh, okay. Well,
everything that we will be in the future, or what you want to be in the future, is going to be an accumulation of what we choose to do from now on. So, definitely. If we close our eyes and we visualize, and I think we've done this activity, but close your eyes, visualize what does peak you look like? 100% potential. All right.
Yep. I know. It's not gonna lie, it's good.
It's so good.
But if you take, I've got a couple of options here. And there's small changes, Lowy. So if I keep doing my snack size fitness day in, day out, I'm just dropping to the floor, hitting some push-ups. When I walk past, when I walk through school now, on the way in, I go through the weights room.
Yeah.
Because there's chin-up bars. Yeah, boys. And I can just quickly, it takes 10 seconds, 15 seconds to bust out a few. And that's just a few seconds, man.
Exactly.
And it's just from choosing to go that direction rather than that direction. And it's the same distance. I just go through a little room rather than going along the oval.
And last week we said choosing between easy and easier. You're just choosing the easy version, not the easy one. Just
it's easy to do it.
Yeah, it's exactly.
It would have been a little bit easier to go just straight along the grass, but
it's still easy to
sure.
do. Put chin-ups when you walk through. What saves you cost you what? A minute, 2 minutes.
Well, less than that.
Less than that.
Less than that. A minute max. So I keep doing that, right? Yep, cool. Or the option is I don't. So I'm just not doing push-ups. And I mean, if I'm not doing it for a day, cool. And then, but push-up Glenbo is getting it done day in, day out. Normal Glenbo is like, oh, I'm just living my life. I'm going by it. On the way to work, I'm listening to audiobooks and I'm listening to this and that. The alternative is listen to nothing or listen to the radio, right? The second option is inconsequential. I'm just like, yeah, cool. I'm just heading to work. No big deal. The other one, I'm like, I'm getting better. I'm taking in knowledge, 20 minutes on the way to work, 20 minutes on the way back from work, 40 minutes a day. How many, like do some maths for me here.
Yeah, wow. That's 40 minutes a day, 40 minutes times 365. Is that what you want?
Well, let's just call it work days, for example, which is 200-ish.
200 times 40 minutes. That's 8,000 minutes. That is 133 hours in a year.
Exactly. Like, that's a fair bit of learning, right?
Yeah.
Even if I'm not, like, the best learning I totally think is deliberate notebook, highlighter, reflection. 100%. How can I apply this? Cool. Which I can't do in the car, obviously. But I tell you, 133 hours of soaking this stuff up. And oftentimes I will just repeat a book. Yep. If I like it, I'll just go repeat. And it just becomes a part of you. And so second Glenbo, with his choice to not listen to anything, he's okay. Yeah. He's going all right after 1 year. Yeah. But let's just say I do it for 10 years, Lowy.
Oh, man. That's so much fun.
Exactly. Do the math. All right.
1,333
exactly.
hours.
Like now I'm getting to the thousands of hours.
And that's got to be like, what, hundreds of books.
Exactly. Of learning as opposed to, it's all good. It's all good. Like, it's so easy not to do it. But it's also so easy to do it. And at the same time, 10 years of doing all of those reps physically. And
you're going to be able to hit that 17 easy.
Damn straight, boy.
You're going to be a real man.
That's I'll be doing it with my eyes shut. That was a deliberate joke. So, and then if I can just add something small in my day with my marriage and with my kids, like, as opposed to, again, not doing it, where am I going to be in 10 years from these tiny little changes? Like, they're snack-sized changes. And it's going to be worlds apart in 10 years' time. So if you can light that fire and just go, that's all I need to do. Is these simple choice, is make a simple choice. Then, damn son, like, if people saw me in 10 years, they'd be like,
damn, he buff.
Whoa, Glenbo, he's got it together. And I'm like, I don't really. I just did these tiny little things.
Yeah. Yeah, those choices every single day. I've got I don't know, it's not the same as your chin-up story when you go through to your office, mate, but when I'm hiking, all right.
Yep.
I know, and we've actually got an expedition coming up with some kids to Tasmania, hiking the overland track. And I just remember, like, we've got to do those little things. I mean, even the reward of muscly Glenbo it might encourage you to do that, but sometimes we also have to be like, well, if I don't do this, then the bad things are going to happen, right? And I remember doing my hike, and the first day. Probably the toughest day of hiking I've ever done. Inclement weather, the snow on the ground had covered the boardwalk, rolled my ankle a little bit. And I was like, I'm in the wilderness all alone, carrying 2 packs, because I was going to a wedding on the Sunday, so I had to finish this hike. Anyway, I could have on the first day just been like, I'm destroyed. All right, if I'm sitting on my tent, I'm not even going to worry. I'm going to get into my warm clothes. All right, I'm just going to take the easy way out. All right, then I would have really screwed myself for the next few days, because I would have just had wet clothes for the rest of the day, for the rest of the hike. All right, so making the choice to go, all right, I've got to do the tiny things, like make sure I don't bring any rocks or grass or water into my tent so that my mattress doesn't pop. All right, making sure that I dry my clothes as best as I can. All right, so that in the morning I'm only putting on damp clothes as opposed to wet clothes or wet frozen clothes. Those are the things. Those are the choices that you need to make and understand. All right, realize that if you don't do that, all right, worlds of pain coming your way.
Like that awareness thing. Awareness is key. We have to realize. And you know what? it comes back to being interested, because it would be so easy. I'm just trying to put myself in your hiking boots there.
Yeah.
To just go, bring in a bit of grass and
it's
into
what?
my tent. It's
It's
just
only
what
3
happens,
blades.
Yeah,
It's
it's just
only
what
3
happens.
blades.
Like, hiking sucks because you always drag grass into your tent or whatever, and you kind of just do it non-consciously. And that just reminds me of a Carl Jung quote, which is a winner, and I know we've talked about it before. Until you make the non-conscious conscious, the non-conscious will govern your life, and we'll call it fate. So we're just non-consciously bringing this stuff into our tent and into our lives and into our relationships and into our work and into our physical health and our mental health. We're letting these things just flow in and pretending that it's fate.
Yeah.
When we don't realise that, wait, if I make it conscious and I realise that I have control to make a choice which is going to make it better, then we'll just be like, nothing I can do about it. Life
That's
sucks,
just what
man.
happened, you know? Like,
we
I couldn't have done anything about it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Which leads me to, those stages of learning from, beginning at non-conscious incompetence.
You don't even know you can't do it.
Yeah, you just don't even know how bad you are at doing some things in life because you're just doing them. And
completely no realization, no awareness.
Exactly. And then once we do start to get some awareness and we realize that, wait, there's some control here, it becomes some conscious incompetence. So we're still sucking at it, but at least we're aware that we suck at it and that we might need to get better. And so we start the path to mastery.
Yeah, invest in interest.
Chipping away, consistency, little bit, 1%, all right, 1 degree, all this type of stuff. And eventually we get to conscious competence. So now I'm aware that, I'm actually competent at this thing and you know where to improve and your thinking is more well-directed and all that sort of thing. And then finally we get to that point of non-conscious competence and mastery where things just happen. Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. Doesn't mean we can't still be interested in getting better. And that's what, last week we talked about Anders Ericsson, who's the deliberate practice guy. And he talks about that the best of the best of the best remain in that sort of conscious competence stage. Even though they could easily switch off and go to that autonomous type automatic stage of performance, they still are so interested in how to get better. Yeah. And they practice deliberately to continue getting better. But that's
at that elite level.
Complete elite stuff. But doesn't mean we can't remain interested.
We can always strive for that. Well, we should be striving forward.
I think, again, we talked about the snowballing effect earlier, right, which comes from consistency and the tipping point. And that just helps with willpower as well. When you talk about choices, often choices comes down to our willpower to make the right decision at the right time. But if we're consistent in our meal planning and in our meal prep, then making the right dinner is easy because it's there. I've done the small, seemingly insignificant choices of sitting down for 10 minutes and planning the meal and just writing the right grocery list and purchasing the right stuff when I did it. Like I'm going to the shops anyway. I've just taken the time to be disciplined at the moment, to plan my week. And, the times I find myself going, damn son, it's curry night. All right, is when I haven't meal planned properly. Or we haven't, I shouldn't say it's on me. We haven't meal planned properly and I haven't eaten during the day because, again, I haven't done the right preparation in the morning. I haven't planned the particulars for that day, which, again, isn't hard, just a small choice.
So
you find the easy way out and you go, I have to. There's just nothing else I can do. There's nothing in the kitchen. Well, that's on you, Daryl.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if we can just continue, like once we start being consistent, like we've really got to wear down that neural pathway and make it almost become like just, I know we've say, take the path of most resistance, but when it's the path that we need to take, all right, we've got to wear it down until it becomes habit.
Yeah. Develop the brain. So we'll have so many sort of, as we spoke about, deeply rooted negative behaviours and negative habits. And again, awareness.
That's
this
it.
Is negative. Yep. And then I've got to deliberately try and forge a new path.
Be disciplined about it, and then.
And then again, I think consistency helps with willpower because I'm making less difficult choices and therefore I can make the right decision easier. but it also helps create a little bit of time and space around things. I'm not always so urgent. If I've been consistent, things just start to happen, and I can have it creates that momentum, all right? As you know, and the law of inertia, an object in motion will stay in motion.
Unless acted upon by another force.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the greater inertia there is, the more force it requires to stop it. So once we get more inertia, all right, this momentum ain't slowing down.
I did some push-ups in the staff room the other day for some reason. I can't remember why. And I think it was because we were talking about the podcast, and Megan was saying something about push-ups, and so...
Push-ups?
Push-ups. Yeah, so I'm like, I'll just drop and do a few now. And I just said to myself, I said it out loud, but I was saying it to myself. I did like 5 or something. I'm just like, it's so easy. And it must have sounded super arrogant to the others. But I was just kind of reinforcing with myself that, like, this, to drop and do 5 used to be hard. Yeah. But it's just so easy now. So easy now,
yeah. And I've noticed that with my kids as well. Like, we make them do... And our volleyball kids have leaps and bounds with their just like
they're just
getting well. Yeah, I know. I saw the girls. Yeah, and I was so impressed.
Yeah, they're just always doing it. Every opportunity.
Yeah, it's good.
Not waiting. They're just. Yeah. And sometimes I'm having to go. Everyone's doing push-ups now. Okay, cool.
Exactly. I was thinking like, I thought you were going to be like, oh, my new Q word is push-ups, and when I hear push-ups, I do push-ups.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's almost like that, but. In terms of the choice, this is huge for me, and keeping up is easier than catching up.
Oh man.
Like, if you can give that sort of little mantra in your head, keeping up is easier than catching up. And there's a couple of things that remind me of that. One, the financial thing.
Yeah.
And if you've done, pre-bulk maths or essential maths or whatever, or wherever they do compound interest in maths, like, they will show you how starting to invest money as early as possible is so important, because you cannot catch up on investing money. Like, you'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars behind if you start at my age. Yeah, I should probably get started. Then if you just at 21 went, yep, okay, I'm going to really work towards building my financial future through investing money in high interest investments, you're going to be so well off. So if you're listening to this and you are whatever age and you haven't got some financial investments in place, like, now's the time.
Yeah.
We got to be interested in that, because it's going to... So that's one area where keeping up and just putting that little bit of money in each week or whatever is going to pay off massively. And you can never catch up on that.
Yeah, and I think every time I get like tuck shop or fast food, like, that stuff adds up. Like, what? I don't know. I haven't been to Macca's in a long time, but like a meal, $13, $14. Like, and if you're doing that on the reg, it's just it's so much money. And I know for sure people would be like, nah, I'd rather just have the money than. Oh, Happy Meal or whatever it is. So. Yeah.
Well, Darren Hardy in The Compound Effect talks about, like, to put this filter through your purchases, would you be willing to pay 5 times the amount for the thing that you're buying? So if it's a $14 meal, are you willing to pay $70 for that meal right now? Because
you could put that,
in, and in 20 years that $14 will be 70, and you've done sweet nothing besides put it into that account. And maybe just had a sandwich which you made from home for 50 cents.
It's just that choice. Hey, you've got to be able to realize the choice at that moment, and then just make that right choice. Yeah,
and I mean, some people are disciplined enough to do that.
Yeah.
And if you can do it I'm not saying do it in every area of your life, because that's pretty insane change straight away. But one thing, if we can get one thing rolling and the snowball starting to happen, then we're away. Another thing I wanted to point out quickly with keeping up versus catching up is parenting.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is super hard.
And I can't comment, but I'm just a shout out to all the parents out there, because parenting to me sounds like it is the hardest job in the world.
Well, I don't know, maybe. But, we're going through not a difficult stage, but a stage that's pushing some buttons for us in terms of the kids all in their own little phases at the moment, and we're just like, we've just got to do the consistent work day in, day out of moulding these people.
Yeah.
If we're going to ignore some of the stuff that they're trying to get away with or whatever, and then try and catch up when they're teenagers and wreaking havoc at school and in life, like, I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to catch up then.
Yeah.
They might catch themselves up again when they've realised.
And whatnot,
yeah, but we're trying to do the consistent work now at keeping up at all the right conversations and having the right talks with them every day to try and make sure that we can avoid that massive, like, we know there's going to be trying times ahead for sure.
Teenage girls,
But the more work we do now and day in, day out now with them, hopefully.
100%. I mean, those, it's going to be a difficult choice between, you know, like, they might be throwing a massive tantrum and you could just be like, all right, take the iPad, you know, have whatever you want, you know, and then, you know, you don't want to reinforce that kind of stuff. So 100%, you don't want to, keeping up is much better than catching up.
Yeah, for sure. And with exercise, if I exercise 7 minutes a day for a month, like, that's about 3 hours, right? I can either do 3 hours one day at the end of the month, or I can do 7 minutes a day. Yeah. If we talk at the start, you talked about immediate benefits versus long-term benefits. Like, the 7 minute a day thing is going to pay off
100%,
immediately because your body's making adaptations daily,
and it's going to long-term pay off and return as well. Yeah.
That once a month 3 hours is going to do
not
much for you at all, besides some serious pain the next day. So let's move on. So, Rich returns, invest with interest, choices. The last letter H stands for habits. All right, and consistency is about developing habits. All right, man, big one here. Yeah, because that's essentially what we're trying to get after, right? Developing habits. Yeah,
right?
Cutting bad ones out, making new ones.
And there's a couple of things we've got to kind of understand with habits, right, before we can really develop them. All right. And in terms of levels of habit change, all right, we've got to work through. James Clear's got like 3 levels. He says the first level or first layer is outcomes-based habit change, all right? And we're thinking like, oh yeah, I want to lose 50 kilograms. Well, sorry, that was a big number. 20 kilograms, 10 kilograms. I don't know how much weight you're trying to lose or gain weight, all right? And we've got to move to the next step, which is processes, and then through to the person, which is your identity-based change, okay? And so habits and our consistency in developing those habits, all right, is something that's so important to the consistency biscuit.
Yeah, definitely. We said before, make the revolution irresistible. And to a lot of people, the revolution in us, you know, one day it may seem sudden and it's just happened, or, you know, the victory on the field seems like it's come out of nowhere, but it's just that the habits that have been formed and the systems that have been put in place by these people to make sure that, you know, it's the work behind the scenes that gets done. It's the work under the ground that gets done through our habits that's going to create, you know, the biggest change.
So James has got these 4 little rules on how to develop these habits. Yeah. And we're going to go through them because we think they're gold.
And we're definitely going to do a
book club for sure. So the first rule is make it obvious. All right. Second rule, make it attractive. Third one's make it easy, and the fourth one is make it satisfying. And if you can follow those rules and apply them to the habits that you're trying to develop, and you know you're consistent with them, all right, you're going to develop that habit. Yep. Using an example, I've been trying to learn Spanish for a long time now.
Bonjour.
That
was a deliberate joke. Again.
And I've been using the program Duolingo, and it sends me a notification every single day to make sure I do my lesson. And so it's obvious. Like if I'm checking my phone and I'm trying to develop this habit of, you know, learning my Spanish, it's obvious when I check my phone, bam, it's there. All right. And so it helps me, that notification, and helps me, you know, develop that habit. Second of all, got to keep your streaks, mate. So, and that's what part of it being somewhat attractive in the gamified form is that, the lessons are points based, experience based. You get XP, level up. You can get little costumes for your owl dude. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's kind of fun to do, and so that's what makes it attractive. It's kind of easy. Learning something new is, not always the easiest, but because it's gamified, and the lessons, it's been thought about.
The makers have probably nerded out on how to make it easy. So.
And they're kind of short. I mean, like I can do a lesson in maybe 2 minutes, right? And then boom, my streaks, it ticks that attractive box because the satisfying box, which is the next rule. So make it satisfying. So when I get those streaks, feeling good. Yeah. I'm at 354 days at the moment. I've managed to develop a habit because Duolingo follows this James Clear, four rules of developing habits.
I developed one for vacuuming, or Haley and I tried to capitalise on one through this, because vacuuming when we were, had time on our hands.
It seems like
it was
many
easy.
moons
Like Saturday
ago.
morning was our vacuuming morning, and we'd whack a bit of. We had a little song that would get us into the groove, which is a great cue as well.
Yeah.
In terms of making it obvious.
Do you want to give the listeners a little taste
of the music?
Yeah.
It was Guy Sebastian. It was that one that goes. And nice. We'd just like start being like, it's cleaning time. When that song came
I like
it. But the vacuum started getting. It was a corded vacuum, get old, and it's not obvious because it's tucked away, and it's not attractive because it's covered in dust and whatnot. It wasn't easy because you're plugging stuff in and you're tugging cords and the thing's flipping over and turning itself off and you're running into things.
I know that feeling,
and it's not easily movable, and it's just wasn't satisfying. Like right at the end, it might have been satisfying when you look at the carpet and go, okay, at least it's clean. But we're like, we need to just make it easier. And so the vacuum was coming not towards the end of its life, but it was definitely losing some suction and whatnot. And so we went and bought a new one. Got one of those cordless bad boys, and it's a pretty good looking unit. It's obvious because it's right there, flashing away at me, and it's like
vacuum, use me.
All you need to do is pick me up, baby. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
It was so easy because you literally the battery lights there flashing, going, I'm fully charged, son. Like, put me to work.
Yeah.
Inside, you just pick it up. It's light. It's so easy to move.
No damn wires around
cords,
it.
And you're just vacuuming, going, I'm nailing this.
Dancing at Guy Sebastian.
Exactly. Well, and you're just watching these crumbs get sucked up from the kids. Boom, baby. And vacuuming became a really easy habit because of that little system.
I like it.
So, if we can get on to knowing, and we apply that to what areas of my life do I want to get better at? If it is physical fitness, then let's make it obvious. Put your shoes out, do this, schedule time, make it attractive by, rewarding yourself even, and doing it with mates and doing something to make it attractive. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy, snack-sized. All right, and then satisfying. I think any exercise is satisfying after the fact, and
get that endorphin high.
Yeah, for sure. So there's heaps here. But on the streak thing you talked about before, to use a volleyball analogy, you can't win in volleyball unless you go on some streaks.
Damn right. You can't. You win a point, they win a point. You win a point, they win a point. It's level. Nothing happens.
So if you're missing serves, and this is another point to make, if you're miss serve, your team miss serve, their team misses serve, there's no competence there. And so we need to at least progress and cultivate ourselves in whatever area of our life to get to that level of some competence, so that we can at least put a serve in life. And once we start to put a serve in and tick that box, I can get on a streak. And so if it's my habits, I've got a streak day after day. If I get 2 days in a row, cool, I've got a 2-day streak. I can't let my non-streak or my days off be more than 2 days. Or our definition says more often than not.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to be streaking I've got to be ticking that box more often than not.
Yeah.
And in volleyball, I've got to win more points then I lose.
Not, yeah.
All right, I've got to get on some service streaks. We want to be serving the ball more than them. Otherwise, they're going to win. Or, otherwise my habit's not going to pay off and I'm not going to see any progress in life if I'm not getting on some streaks. So we've got to streak it. And I think habit tracking is an amazing way to...
That's coming in for you in the dark, fellas and gals.
Yeah.
Another thing, I think it's also really important. If we've invested with interest, we're nerding out. We'll be also evaluating our, systems that we already have in place. If I think about my Duolingo and my Spanish example, and I use James Clear's, levels-based outcomes. My very first one, it's to learn Spanish. All right, but that's really short. That's really short-sighted. Everybody wants to have that stuff, right? And I've got to start implementing better processes to get me there. Yeah, the current process at the moment is I've got a notification, all right, and it reminds me to do it, all right. And there's sometimes I forget. So what are some things that I need to do to implement in this process, all right, that helps me achieve and become more consistent with my Spanish lessons? Off the top of my head, put an alarm in, right? So, because sometimes I don't check my phone, and the notification's a little bit later at night. So if I have another notification, I'm already improving my processes, right? So evaluation, nerding out. So I think it's such an important thing. That next level after processes is identity-based change. And I don't think I can, identify as a Spanish person just yet, or a Spanish speaker. I think I need to gain that competence first before I can really just say that, I'm a fluent Spanish speaker. See. So, something to just think about in terms of nerding out and evaluating these important processes that James Clear talks about in his books, Atomic Habits.
Well, to link to that identity thing, I think... to be, you must become. Or to do, you must become. So if we want to write this book, we need to become the book. We need to know what we are writing about and become those people. And so for that, I think, immersing yourself a little bit more and just getting into that environment again and being like, yep, this is actually for me and this is who I am and I've got this down. Should we get to the done?
We should.
The habits thing I think we'll come back to fairly regularly, especially when we do that
book club review
of Atomic Habits. Get onto it. It's and he's a great example of consistency, is James Clear, because he goes through a bit of his story, but he's been piling on blog posts since 2012, and it's only really been in the last couple of years that he's shot to stardom. So there's all those years beforehand of just becoming the expert,
being consistent. Yeah, so the dunk. We've talked about journaling, and I think a really easy dunk to do with consistency is to track a habit.
Yeah.
Right?
You've bought a journal, haven't you, folks?
Please say yes.
And if you haven't, do it.
Do it now.
Just go and do it now. Yeah. Get a journal.
And if you Google bullet journaling, there's plenty of different habit trackers that you can use to track some habits. Couple of examples. Currently, I have housework. I've got a little house column. I've got a meditation column. Hope your May meditation's going good. I've got a Duolingo column. So not only do I have a streaks component built into the app, but I also track the habit itself, and I tick that bad boy off every day. So number one, pick a habit and then track it, or start. Well, you've got to first of all start doing it consistently. Yeah, but pick a habit and track it.
Some of mine include my snack size fitness, and then which I would definitely encourage people to do, just like push-ups, and rather than ticking the box,
Pavlov's dogs. You hear the word push-ups, you do some push-ups.
Write the number down, and if you can get it done early in the day, sometimes I'm like, just get it done early. Like I'll wake up and bust out some sets, and I know that I can at least tick those boxes or write those numbers in before I even leave my bedroom.
Nice.
And you've got that done. But then flossing my teeth, I always struggled with flossing my teeth. I'd just be like, but since I started habit tracking it, which was probably 4 years ago now, I've probably
Is
only
it still
missed...
on there?
Yeah, it's still on there. Yeah, I've probably only missed 20, 30 days in 4 years.
Solid.
Whereas up until that, I probably only flossed 40 times in the few years leading up to that. It was terrible. yeah, so get some of that on there, and then obviously track whether you've done your journaling. But yeah, we've got to definitely get onto the habit tracking thing. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty simple, straightforward dunk, guys. So yeah, get it done.
I think the last thing I want to say about consistency is by knowing who we want to become, we can be not only consistent in our actions and in our habits, but consistent in who we are and who we are to other people. And we spoke about it before. That's how we develop trust. We are not a mixed bag. People know what they get when they come to me because I'm consistent, because I know what my values are, and I act in that way also. And that's another way we can definitely be consistent. So what are the things that are moving us toward success and our desired future every day? And if you haven't done anything today that's doing that, or if you haven't done anything in the last few days, then I've got a little Life Biscuits thing on my habit tracker as well. Have I made some sort of contribution towards our desired future for Life Biscuits in that day?
Nice.
Yes. Good times.
Well, folks, just to recap on consistency, our acronym is RICH. R for returns, I for invest with interest, C for choices, and H for habits. All right. Gobble them Bicky ups, guys.
Yeah. All right, and make it public, people. Tell someone, get that accountability going. Say, this is what I'm trying to do. Right. Been Wildlife, bickies@gmail.com. Bickies with 2 Ks. Check us up on the social medias.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, boy.
And we'll see you next week.
Alrighty. Farewell.
Bye.
Time to go.
So delicious.
I'm feeling full.
Yum yum in my tum tum.
Gotta digest them bickies.